Skybound gave her 100,000 copies and the keys to one of the biggest comic and television franchises in the world. And what did Tillie Walden do with The Walking Dead? She decided the franchise needed to be torn down. Instead of building on the world Robert Kirkman had created, she called its core DNA outdated, dismissing the original tone, setting, and characters that made The Walking Dead iconic to begin with. In the end, this wasn't creative evolution, this was ideological replacement. Here's how one creator systematically dismantled one of horror fiction's most beloved franchises, and why the core fans never came back. When Skybound announced the Walking Dead Clementine trilogy in 2022, this wasn't just another side project, it was the future of the franchise in comics. Book 1 launched with a massive 100,000 copy print run, banking on the Walking Dead comic book and television legacy and the Telltale Games fanbase. But what happened next? No second printings, no sustained chart presence. Book 1 never cracked the Circana BookScan top 20. Book 2 briefly showed up in October of 2023. Book 3, a blip on the New York Times graphic books list in 2025, and then gone. Compare that to the Walking Dead trades and compendiums that historically dominated BookScan charts for months and even years. During 2022 and 2023, you needed roughly 5,000 to 10,000 units per month to chart in the top 20. Clementine likely never hit that threshold except for Book 2's debut month. No reprints, no variant covers, no long-term bookstore momentum, just a 100,000 copy bet that looks pretty excessive in hindsight. 100,000 copy print run on the very first volume for The Walking Dead Clementine tells you right there that Robert Kirkman, Skybound, Image Comics were putting all their chips when it comes to comic books behind this. They had all the faith in the world that the monumental success of The Walking Dead could certainly continue in graphic novel format. But after that enormous first print, there's no articles, there's no coverage about the second print because it likely never happened. This is a disaster happening in slow motion. And the fact that they've had no real sales chart presence for any of the 3 volumes shows that nobody really showed up. There was no real buzz for The Walking Dead. Despite a decade of prolonged success, even small indie books sell pretty well and hit that 5,000 to 10,000 threshold once they get that word of mouth going, but that never really happened for Clementine. And I do believe attaching that YA label, that young adult graphic novel label to the book, was probably the first red flag. Fans wanted authentic, The Walking Dead type stories. They wanted to see Clementine come out of the video games and into the comic books as a survivor, but it's pretty clear that they realized early on that she was basically just going to be a social experiment. This should have been the absolute biggest slam dunk in the world, the easiest victory of all times. Instead, when you look at the BookScan data, it shows a clear message. The fans simply didn't care. But why didn't Walking Dead Clementine work? The real disease was ideological, and author Tillie Walden made no secret of that. Walden didn't want to just continue The Walking Dead. She wanted to escape it. In multiple interviews, she openly questioned the franchise's foundation, saying, "We've sort of done a lot of what we can do in this American, especially Southern, especially male, especially white, especially able-bodied context." To her, that context wasn't a strength, it was a limitation. So in Clementine, she pivoted away from the American South, dropped the gritty survival tone that defined the original, and sidelined the stoic male archetypes, characters like Rick, Shane, or Lee from the games. This wasn't just a new setting, it was a brand new philosophy. And longtime fans of The Walking Dead, whether it be in comic books or television or even in video games, the American South is a part of the identity of the story. That's the setting where all these things take place from. That's the setting where all the characters that they love reside. And you can't really pull that stuff out without serious consequences. The male characters aren't just decorations. In The Walking Dead, they were emotional anchors to a lot of the stories. When you think about Shane or Carl or Glenn or Daryl, there is no franchise without those characters. And able-bodied survival, that's not ableism, that's apocalyptic logic. Nobody wants to go through a book and watch people in wheelchairs get destroyed by zombies. And once you start removing the able-bodyism of zombie survival, it's hard to make the book interesting and maintain that kind of survival mode for the characters. And once you start stripping away the setting and the male characters and the able-bodyism and all that stuff, you end up with really bad generic zombie fiction that everybody's seen a billion times in the past. And make no doubt about it, she didn't just reject the setting, she was rejecting the audience that liked it in the first place. And always remember, when a creator specifically says that they're moving beyond, what they're actually saying is they want to move forward without you, the actual readers. And once the setting was gutted, it was time for the author to directly insert herself into the story. In Clementine Book 3, Tillie Walden introduces a new antagonist, a queer female character she describes as a not good person who is doing harmful things. Why? In her own words. It was really fascinating to work on, and it suits where I'm at right now with queerness in queer stories, which is that at this juncture, I'm craving complexity. It's quite clear this isn't about villainy in the traditional Walking Dead sense. It's about exploring identity, morality, and queerness through a lens that has more to do with the author's personal journey than with the world Clementine came from. The focus shifts from survival horror to identity introspection, and in doing so, the story starts serving the creator more than the characters or even the audience. And when the author says, I had to inject my own personal journey into the story, right there, they're telling you this is no longer Clementine's story or a Walking Dead story or any of the actual reasons a vast majority of the people would have supported the book in the first place. And when Walden is saying, I'm craving complexity in storytelling, really, she's just wanting to use the audience as test subjects for however she sees queerness at the moment. The Walking Dead villains have always been memorable because of what they did, the obstacle that they presented to the characters within the story, the force that they put down on the survivors, and the disgusting lows that they would go in a world without civilization anymore. Those villains were never really defined by who they were sleeping with. And when fans arrived at The Walking Dead Clementine, they were expecting survival horror, The Walking Dead, not identity metaphors. And make no mistake, this really isn't about representation. This is about the author's own indulgences. Great stories don't preach, they resonate, and this never really achieved that. And the reason she felt so confident with this new direction, because she thinks this is how you achieve equality in storytelling. Tillie Walden doesn't just admit she's changing The Walking Dead, she's damn proud of it. She advocates for what she believes is equality in storytelling by treating her work with the same confidence as male authors, stating, I think that's a way to create some equality, is if I treat my books the way they treat their books, which is like, this is good shit here. To her, that mindset justifies rewriting the franchise's DNA. The goal isn't to continue The Walking Dead, it's to reframe it. And her vision of equality means rejecting the foundation that made the series iconic in the first place. As the first woman and lesbian creator to helm a Walking Dead story, she saw Clementine as her chance to reshape the IP into something radically different. This isn't evolution, it's replacement. And equality is never required the tearing down of the old guard down to your level. It's always required that the new generation rise up to what was actually there before. And if there's a lesson we've all learned over the last decade, is that if you treat the fans as if they're the problem, you will absolutely lose them in the end. Being the first woman and lesbian creator in The Walking Dead doesn't give you permission to rewrite canon, and this idea that male authors have confidence in their work or are treated as somehow more legitimate works of fiction or whatever because they just say, you know what, that's what I did, that's good shit. That is not how it works. You actually have to deliver the goods, but you should also have confidence in what you've created, i.e. you have to earn that shit. You have to earn that audience praise. You have to earn that audience buy-in. You have to earn that second audience purchase once they discovered your work. She never did that because this was never about evolution. This was always about conquest, taking something away from people she doesn't like, removing The Walking Dead from a core fan base because she doesn't think they were good enough to begin with. You simply can't replace a franchise's DNA and actually expect it to survive. The Walking Dead Clementine did not fail by accident, it failed by design. No reprints, no second wave of readers, no fan base really stuck around. Because the people the series was made for were never The Walking Dead fans in the first place. When a creator tells you they're looking beyond what made something great to begin with, you should believe them. When they say they're craving complexity rather than clarity, keep an eye on your wallet. And when they use beloved characters and franchises to explore their own personal identity, instead of honoring the source material, you are no longer the audience. The Walking Dead always warned us. The monsters are the ones with a smile that will eat you alive. Turns out, that goes for publishing too. What do you think? Are fans overreacting? Or is this exactly the kind of corporate-approved audience replacement that's killing modern comics? Don't forget to drop a comment below because I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts. And if you thought that was bad, you really need to watch my breakdown of I Am Not Starfire. Another perfect example of big publishers handing over beloved IP to creators that have zero idea what they're actually doing, and certainly could care less about the fans who made the characters popular in the first place. There's a link in the video description. The video is right there. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep thinking critical.